And we're back. Thank you so much for listening. Again, it's your boy, Mr. C. Aaron Hinton here, and his guest.
The one and only fabulous Michael.
Yes, the fabulous Michael's still here with us. Yes, and we are trying to mosey on through these topics. We gave him an option to pick 5 out of like a plethora of topics. And these are 5 that he wanted to talk about. That's something new to be doing here. We actually trying to get people to talk about what they want to talk about versus just the topics that we throw at them. And, you know, it seems to be proven pretty good to do it this way. We just finished talking about homelessness in New York City, and now we're moving on to our next topic, which is gang violence. Gang violence. Without further ado, I'm just going to kind of let it go a little bit. And what does gang violence mean to you, fabulous Michael?
Well, when you talk about gang violence, what it means to me is that it looks like it came a point in a time when a kid, because I'm gonna now say kids, because kids are doing the gang violence. It seems that there's a lot going on right there. It seems like it feels that somebody's not listening to them at home. It feels like the attention is not on them, and it feels like the attention is definitely geared towards other different directions. And unfortunately, with gang violence that is going on and joining a gang, it seems to be something that the only thing that the kids are getting into because the home basically is not structured up properly. And I feel that when we have a home that's not structured properly, the kids are going to turn to this and use this as a way of expressing their ideas and the actions. And it's not being guided properly.
Well, with that being said, is it really their ideas or is it the ideas of the gang? Like, because I just started thinking as you were speaking, I'm like, well, maybe we should just say street violence and not gang violence, because the way you framed it, it sounded like most of this gang violence is external, meaning it's on the streets, because it's not domestic. It's not. It stems from the home, but it's what's going on in the home that they project into the streets, but also based on the direction that they're being directed. Like, you know, like they're not. They don't go out there with their own ideas of what it's like. They're told by the gang leader.
Yeah, that is true. They are told specifically what to do. But when you break it down, the specifics of what's going on, everybody basically doesn't. Yes, they do have to follow somebody, but a lot of times, a lot of people within the gang exactly start making up their own and start crewing certain stuff to go this way, that way, and a lot of times it does spin off to where it goes from listening to one person to going to listen to him that hasn't been here the longest, and now it's turning this way, that way, and the third.
So it sounds like you're referring to the ideology of the individual that is considered the big homie,
right?
Like, so now as it pertains to the big homie, like, you know, what exactly are we talking about there? Like, because I guess that would be the leader. You know, who dictates and who directs and who delegates what's going on. Like, so, like, what's going on with that? Like, because from what I have learned or from what I know, it's like, you know, you got big homies who say, you know what, you only 13, 14, 15 years old. You're not old enough to catch a murder charge because they just going to put you in family court. So I'm going to put the gun in your hand and you're going to handle some shit that I, as the big homie, is supposed to handle, but I'm gonna give it to you because now the deed gets done, but I don't have to face the consequences or the repercussions.
Right, and when that usually occurs, unfortunately, it's like, you know, when does that cycle basically get cut off? Which it doesn't. It actually more and more continues, and I feel that when we have gang violence, you know, happening within. Of course, it hits hard because it goes to many black communities. Unfortunately, I mean, all the other communities do have similar to that, but because it pertains more to us, it definitely, you know, we definitely feed more into it because there's so much different lacks of so many different things that go on within our community that this is the only alternative that some of these kids turn to, and sometimes it's not. They say it's not their choice. They say that they're born into it. They say this, that, and the third.
I mean, some of them are, though, by the way, just to throw it out there. Like,
Right.
there are some who is, this is what my mother did, this is what my father did. And, you know,
Right.
so I got to follow in them footsteps. I was raised on this. I was born and
Right.
bred on this. So this is what I do. Like, and that's my thing, too. Like, not to change the topic, but it's like, some people are down for the cause. You understand? Like, it's not even about, you know, my membership. It's about the cause. Like, we don't, it's not even just about the big homie or, you know, they're there for the cause. And as it pertains to gangs, as we so eloquently put it, it's like, yo, the Bloods and the Crips were created to be like similar to the Black Panthers. You understand?
Right.
Who we can call a militia, but the Black Panthers were there to listen. If it wasn't for the Black Panthers, there would be no free food. You understand? Like the you understand? Like the free lunch program was you know. There's a lot of things that the Black Panthers instilled, and those went through the schools. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier about the homeschooling. Like, yo, at some point, when do we as a people take control of our community and implement the things that we want/need within our community? Like, the funds are there. It's not even about the funds anymore. We keep saying they're not sending the money. The money is being sent, but it's not being distributed properly. And of course, that goes to the elected officials, which I know you know good about, because that's how we met. Like,
Right.
we met with these meetings with these elected officials. Like, yo, what the fuck are y'all doing? Like,
Yeah, and you know the thing is about what the elected officials, unfortunately for their screw up and taintedness, is that they're feeding into the society that doesn't cater to any of the back home community.
because the last thing
membership.
these kids is thinking about is voting.
Right, and the craziest part is that they already joined a system that already is very prejudiced. It's a very much racist foundation, and they drag along with it, and black people hoping and expecting that they're going to be listening to them, but unfortunately, because we're not going with concessions, and we're not exactly making sure that these candidates do the right thing, which is exactly funding their campaign. But when if you fund their campaign, they have no choice but to exactly listen to, because you exactly invested the interests of them.
So possibly the solution is, instead of investing your money into the streets, you ought to invest your money into the campaigns of the elected officials. that
Yes,
actually
because they will
represent
determine exactly
What your needs
what
are
your
and
needs are, and they will exactly be held responsible when they're not doing something. You'll be called out from it. And the reason why this gang violence goes further and deeper to almost everyday life is because of the simple fact is that none of the leaders within their society are listening carefully to what these kids really want, and that's some of the problems. But also, we have a lot of sellouts.
So, yes. Now, not to cut you off again, I definitely don't like to cut people off. I want to, but because of the sake of time. This is another topic which we're not going to get too deep into, but I want you to tap on how the topic of peer pressure and gang violence intertwines.
I feel that when gang initiation prepares a lot of young people, unfortunately, it's through high school, and unfortunately, it goes to a point where sometimes this is like the options of levels of protection. And I feel that, you know, all the time when I grew up within New York City, some people, they needed a gang to walk through their neighborhoods, and you know, I was just one of those type of guys that didn't need that shit, because I mean, you're not gonna step to me telling me that, you know, where I can't walk. I mean, I'm a fuck you kind of guy, and you know, if you want to get it started, let's go. You know, I'm just one of those type of dudes who've always been in that kind of direction, so you couldn't get me to get through with that. But you know, when I look at how you know, peer pressure comes down to them, is because of the fact is that a lot of these gang, you know, memberships, they need their numbers up, they need, you know, all these different types of, you know, power of somebody to rule after them. And unfortunately, you know, that I wouldn't want to say that the weakest kids going to them, but I could say it looks like the weakest kids are going to them, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, statistics would say exactly what you said you didn't want to say, and I understand. But it's also a matter of like, are these young people being pressured to join gangs, or are they so upset with what's going on in home that they resort to the next best thing, which is the gang?
It's a mix of both. It's a mix of both. I'm gonna say it's a mix of both because there is levels of that going on at the same time, as well as kids could just ignore it and go through, single-handedly like how I did. I mean, I just wasn't gonna listen to anybody.
Well, I mean, but you got some kids who were raised what we would call with the silver spoon in their mouth. Right. So it's like you don't need to resort to a gang because at home you have everything. But because of the pressure in the streets and because of the clout, that's what they call it nowadays. You understand? It's like, I'm going to join this and be a part of this because I'll be more popular that way. So it's like, fuck the fact that my mom and dad make sure I have every meal, 3 hots and a flop. That's what they called it back in the day. Like they don't even really consider that. Right. It's like, yo, my mom and dad make sure I have everything I need. They the ones who dress me with these fly clothes that y'all see me with. But the pressure is, we need you to be a part of us. And then you get a kid who actually is a good kid, raised to be a good kid, but the influence now comes from outside of the home. So it has nothing to do with the way they're being raised up. It's just now they're being influenced outside of how they're being brought up. And they choose now at this moment to go that route.
Yes, they actually are, have independent minds and independent ways, but a lot of times, based on how they're growing up and based on what is said in the household, based on what is done, is something that they will probably dare not to exactly investigate to go through because of what it is, and because some people know their parents and they're not going to tolerate that. There's parents who are very much not going to have that in their home. That's just not the way it's going to be. So you're not going to be in that's.
So what does that look like when they choose to go outside of the home realm and go into that? And then, like you said, the parents like, no, it can't come in here. Now they got to hide from home what they're doing out there on the streets. Like, so now, just to double back and bring it back to the parents, like, so when the mess hits the front door, the parents is not my child. Like, that's not my kid.
That always happens, yeah. But like I said, parents have to exactly, you have to, triple and double what you do with your children. Even though you have to mention that this is no good, you have to mention that these are things that are not going to happen here, and if they do happen here, there will be consequences for that. Parents do not give children consequences for their actions. People think that yes, they're going to be raised good.
That's the definition of being a daddy,
but you
right?
have to
daddy gotta be like, yo, I'ma whip that ass, nigga.
I mean, so this is not the way. This is not going to be the way it's going to go around here.
Right,
you're not going to do this, and this is what it is.
Because if your gang is going to put food on the table and fucking pay these bills that we got coming in every month,
exactly,
they ain't got no say other than that. Like, nah, I feel you. All right, you got
even if they're peer pressured, even if they're doing that, right? You're gonna be peer pressured enough for consequences.
Yes,
that's gonna be.
And you better hope your big homie and all of them gonna take these consequences too. Nah, all right, I fucks with you. All right, we got about 20 more seconds as it pertains to gangs of violence. Anything that you want to say that you didn't say yet?
Oh well, I just feel that in order to eliminate this down, we just gotta basically, like I said, talk to these children. They have to be loved first and foremost, because that's what's missing. There's not enough time with these children. A lot of people are having, children, and they're working all these sort of jobs just to pay these bills down. But unfortunately, I mean, kids basically have a lot of feelings, and it's being ignored. And the only way it's going to be answered is through a lot of these channels that they go through on the streets and in school. A lot of these shows are going to be viewed. They're going to look through this, and they're going to find that this is where it needs to be.
Big facts. I'm definitely here with you. All right. Again, that's Let's Talk About It at 569gmail.com. Yo, call in, send a text, 718-462-0249. Yo, we here all the time. Sorry about that. We late, but yo, catch us.